While the weather outside may be frightful, the holidays are so delightful and a fantastic opportunity for companies to show their appreciation to their employees. From the National Business Aviation Association, this is Flight Plan.
This podcast is brought to you by Scudero, the software that elevates your flight operations.
For Pete Combs, I'm Rob Finfrock with your trusted source for business aviation news. Without a doubt, ours is a diverse, fast-paced, and exciting industry, and while most of us working in business aviation wouldn't have that any other way, those same factors can also make it difficult throughout the year to bring everyone at a company or organization together to celebrate their team's success and their own individual accomplishments. The holiday season presents an ideal opportunity to do exactly that. But how should companies approach these gatherings to ensure an enjoyable time for their employees and to let everyone know they're appreciated as vital members of the team? Joining me to discuss this today are Anne-Marie Oxman, Chief People Officer for NBAA, and Chris Cherkis, the association's Director for Meetings Experience. Anne-Marie, what makes the holiday season a fitting time for companies to show their appreciation?
Well, I think the holidays, especially that come at the end of the year, is always a time to sort of reflect on how the year has been. And it is a way to make sure that you're using that time to thank employees for what they've contributed for the past year to the organization. I find it interesting in the holiday times, there can be an excitement for a lot of employees, but it's also can be a stressful time. So I think it's just a good opportunity to just take a step back from the day-to-day activities and think, is this a time in which, how do we bring our employees together? How do we be thankful for the things that we have, including our work relationships, which for many of us, we spend more time at work than we do with our extended family. And so I think it's always just a great time to just take a few days, minutes, activities in which employees have an opportunity to thank and recognize employees.
I'm sure many of our listeners also equate this time of year with holiday bonuses, a financial reward of some kind. However, that doesn't have to be what the holidays are all about, right?
Yeah, my experience based on different organizations that I've worked at is that it wasn't about necessarily getting a what I would used to be like, a holiday bonus. In fact, many employers these days, because they might have a different fiscal year, may not even provide bonuses at the end of the year. And what I have found is sometimes it could be very small token of appreciation. I remember getting a $30 gift certificate to the local food store, and that being an incredibly important part of my Christmas or holiday planning that I had when I was in my 20s. I personally took that money and used it to bring to my family holiday breakfast. And so I think, again, it doesn't necessarily need to be a significant financial gift, but even small tokens of appreciation can be welcomed. And sometimes it's as small as a gift certificate to get some coffee. I think it's about being thought of. We've done in the past at other organizations, if we didn't have a lot of money, just doing a potluck, bringing everybody together, having the opportunity for people to share with one another a dish that's important to them and maybe their family or something that they like to serve. That really what it's about is bringing people together and taking a moment to recognize how important people are to you that you work with.
As you were saying that, Anne-Marie, I recalled such a holiday gathering for a company I used to work for. It was just dinner followed by a karaoke party. Now, I don't remember if I received a financial bonus that year or not, but that evening still sticks out in my mind more than 10 years later as a fantastic experience and a great time to see my coworkers away from the office. Chris, how important have such holiday gatherings been to you throughout your career?
I think that at NBA, we certainly do a lot of things with our gatherings, but in the past and with NBA, it's really about getting together. And it doesn't matter on any one particular year, as Anne-Marie mentioned, getting everyone together in one place outside of the office or even in the office is always sort of what sticks to me. You close out the end of the calendar year just reflecting on what you've done in the year and sharing sort of more personal time. And I think that those are the experiences that make it great.
Now, Chris, while the holidays present a wonderful opportunity to bring everyone together, especially people we may not see otherwise throughout the year, I'm sure that can also be pretty challenging to coordinate.
I think being a planner is always important. scheduling things well in advance, and making sure, especially if you have folks that are not in your local office, that you extend the invite and have them have a way to participate. Certainly with our remote employees, we want to get the date on the calendar early. If they can travel into the office, that's great. If they can't, we allow them to participate in some of our prizes and giveaways, and even we do a secret snowflake, a gift exchange. I think those small ways, but including ways for folks that aren't technically all together, those are always really good first steps to just make sure that everyone feels involved and can participate, whether they're in the office or not.
And if I could go on with Chris, I think some of the things that I've done with remote workers, which I think is just a lot of fun, is let's say your office wants to have an ugly sweater contest. Well, there's no reason why your remote workers can't also participate by having a picture of them in their ugly sweater. And then you can show that to everybody within the organization, and to take pictures of people that are, in the organization, and making sure that goes out to all employees. I think there's just small little things. It's just trying to always remember your remote workers are there and they want to be engaged. They want to participate. So it's sometimes just allowing them to participate in the same activities, but having them show a picture to able to share that with one another.
Coming up, we'll discuss how companies can engage with all their employees to make the holidays a special and memorable time. But first, a word from our sponsor, Scudero.
Hi there, this is Justin from Scudero. Did you know Scudero now has an iOS app for pilots and crew members? The Scudero Crew app transforms how operators and flight departments share flight information by delivering everything pilots and crew members need for their missions direct to their phones. From notifications of assigned missions to passenger details and flight logs, pilots can now carry their full workflow in their pocket. Learn more today at Scudero.com. That's Scudero, SCHEDAERO.com.
We're back with NBAA's Chris Cherkis and Anne-Marie Oxman, and our discussion about celebrating the holiday season. Now, so far, we've focused on group gatherings during this time, but Anne-Marie, the holidays also present an ideal opportunity to acknowledge an employee's contributions on a more one-on-one level, right?
Absolutely. I think the end of the year is always a great time for supervisors to sit down with their employees and have a discussion about how they felt the year went for them. And really what I would focus more on than just their performance, but I'd be asking them questions about, has this job met your expectations that you had hoped for this year? What's going well? I also think it's a great opportunity to ask them for feedback. What I like to say is, for me, continuing to develop as a leader is very important. And I would love your feedback on what I'm doing that's either you are finding that's really helpful in your job, or maybe you think is hindering. I like to ask the question, if there's one thing I could keep doing, what do you want me to keep doing? If there's one thing I can stop doing, what would you like me to stop doing? And then I always like to say, is there's one thing I could start doing for the new year? What would you like me to start doing? And I also like to just ask the employees, do you feel like you have the support and the resources to do your job? What do you know that I don't know that you think I should know? And I just, again, try to make it about them, but focusing on how you can help them and how you can make sure that the job is meeting the expectations they'd always hoped for.
Chris, what are your thoughts on that from the perspective of someone who's also supervising a team?
I think to build on that, it's taking the time to be a little more personal. I think that sometimes we get sucked into the digital world. We are on conference calls and emails, and we use communications through digital means. I think the personal touch, to sit down and have a conversation, write a handwritten card and leave it on someone's desk. I think engaging just one-on-one and saying thank you and showing that you care and showing that your team is appreciated, I think those go a really long way from a one-on-one perspective. Just sort of breaking the mold a little bit. Maybe it's going to get a cup of coffee and just having a chat that's not totally focused on even the holidays or the end of the year or business. Well, that's obviously important. I think sometimes also taking that little extra initiative just to be a little more human and less digital is always a good way to wrap up the year.
I think another way that you can recognize individuals, and you could even do it in a group setting, is to recognize for maybe accomplishments that are more about personal skills or something personal to somebody. So, for example, recognizing somebody getting the happiest person in the office for 2019, or the person most likely to travel on an exotic vacation. So I think finding things that are very personable about the employee and being able to then recognize that this is how we identify you, again, making it all appropriate. But I think there's just lots of easy ways to recognize the contributions that each of us bring to that are not just work related.
Well, I'd imagine many employees are receptive to such gatherings and look forward to the chance to unwind a bit with their coworkers. Anne Marie, how should companies engage with their more introverted team members during this time?
You're absolutely right that you need to know how comfortable individuals are, because some individuals do not like to have the limelight put on them, but they do want to contribute. So I also have found that some individuals just want to know that they're asked to the party. As I like to say, they're asked to the party, but they're not forced to go to the party. I know I had an employee at a former employer in which she liked to be asked to go to lunch with the group, but generally said that she wasn't very comfortable going to lunch. So I just acknowledged that and would invite her each time with her feeling very comfortable that it was okay for her to politely decline. And then I would try to find other ways to recognize her. This was a person who much preferred a nice note. She was somebody who liked to collect. She actually collected giraffes. And so, if I found a little token or an ornament that had a giraffe on it, I might leave that on her desk just so that she knew how important she was to the team. And I think that she contributed to the team in a lot of ways, but didn't necessarily want to be going to lunches or happy hours, or I would say those large events.
That's exactly sort of the path that I see that I've appreciated in my career, and I think that other people do appreciate, is just knowing sort of the boundaries. And if people are introverts or extroverts, I think just acknowledging them, certainly inviting them to the dance, so to speak, is a good way just to make sure people know that they have had the opportunity to be as involved or not involved as they feel comfortable with.
So let's share some tips for NBAA's member companies to create an ideal holiday gathering for their team members. Anne Marie?
As you're planning events, I find if you can find a place that has actual activities for the employees to engage in, besides just talking and eating, is always a good idea. For example, most recently, we wanted to celebrate how well we had done at base. And so we had all the employees were invited to come to a happy hour event, which was surrounded by ping pong tables so that people could play ping pong. And I think that's just sometimes a nice way, whether it's pool or ping pong or bowling. I think having an activity, or as you described, the karaoke, not everybody needs to participate, but it gives people an opportunity who may be a little bit on the introverted or shy side to engage with their colleagues while watching other people play different events.
It's not always about, obviously, the parties and all those things we've covered. I think just bringing in some of the overall spirit of the season, as Anne Marie mentioned, it can be a very exciting time. It can be a very stressful time. So I think just bringing sort of like the positive and the cheer, whether that's through even like some light decor or that note card or whatever it is, I think just letting folks know that they are appreciated and cared for and they're contributing, and it's a good time for everybody. I think that's just that one extra step just to let folks know that we're on board as much as they are throughout the holiday season.
And that's the latest from the National Business Aviation Association. Remember, you can subscribe to all Flight Plan podcasts at Apple's iTunes website, wherever you find your favorite podcasts, or download them from nbaa.org. I'm Rob Finfrock, and thanks for listening to Flight Plan.